York Mets traded Max Scherzer last week to American League West Titan, the Texas Rangers. And moments before the show comes on the air today, they trade Justin Verlander to another American League West Titan, the reigning defending World Series champion, Houston Astros, who Justin Verlander starred for last year and helping to pitch them to a World Series championship. So this was rumored yesterday. John Heyman talked about it yesterday, and it's been bandied about all day today. And now it is indeed official. The Mets receiving 2 outfield prospects. The Mets probably sent a bunch of money also to the Astros to take Verlander on. Justin Verlander returns to the Houston Astros in the American League West, where he'll now be rivals with Max Scherzer in the same division. They were teammates like 5 days ago. Pretty wild. Houston's World Series price at BetMGM plus 800, American League plus 375. They are now the favorite to win the American League West minus 110. Texas plus 100. The Rangers up by a half game in the standings. So let's start here. Big time trade in Major League Baseball. We'll get Jake's take in a second. Ken, your thoughts? Verlander back to Houston.
That I think I really like them to win the World Series this year again. There's a lot of criteria. We won't have time to do it all on the show today, but the really, really brief synopsis is look, there's a lot of things that are predictive of winning a World Series. I know the baseball postseason seems really random all the time, and we can think of random champions, but all of them actually share a ton of attributes. And the thing that I was worried about with the Astros this year is actually exactly the player that they got back, who they had last year, which is just, look, if you're going to start a playoff series, a big, maybe end up playing Texas at some point, maybe end up playing Baltimore at some point, maybe you play Tampa, maybe it's the World Series and you play the Braves or the Dodgers or something, and it's Framber Valdez and you go from there in game one, I'm going to just have some questions about whether that's going to work. And especially how Framber Valdez has kind of been a little shaky here the last couple of weeks, was one of the Cy Young favorites and now kind of isn't, and the way he's trending. But to just get Verlander back, and maybe this blows up and he's not particularly good, and whatever, he's really old and he's off injury, and I totally understand all that, but to just kind of pencil him in now to just run back the core of last year's, where again Yordan Alvarez is back, everything kind of looks the same, and the AL is pretty gettable. It seems like you pencil Verlander in. I don't think it makes them the overwhelming favorite. There are other very good teams. But I just, spoiler alert, I like them a lot. And I obviously like them much more than I did before they got Verlander. And they make a lot of sense as a World Series champion. And there are not many teams that make sense as a champion.
Jake the Snake Assam loves himself some Major League Baseball. We talk to Jake about baseball every single day on the show. Jake, a big baseball bettor for us and also for our friends over on BetQL Daily here on the BetQL Network. Jake, Astros, Justin Verlander, go.
I mean, Justin Verlander, Framber Valdez, Christian Javier. Stop me if you heard that one before. Sounds a lot better than Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, rookie Hunter Brown. This is everything that they needed, especially with Valdez being just kind of okay over the last couple of weeks. Let's run it back, baby. You want Scherzer? All right, great. We have Verlander now. So take that, Texas Rangers. I just think we're going to get kind of nuts, though, now. I think things are about to get really weird. I think the Orioles now have watched the Rays make a trade, the Astros make a trade, and the Rangers make a trade, and they're going to look around and say, do we really want to go into the playoffs with Tyler Wells and Kyle Bradish leading our rotation? Probably not. And Dylan Cease probably sounds really, really good right now if you're the Orioles, or Blake Snell, or ex-pitcher who has experience in the playoffs, because literally no one in the rotation does, and that's kind of scary. So I think the Orioles are about to do something. I kind of think that the Rangers are going to respond as well, because they want to hold on to that division lead, and they want to be the big team in the state of Texas, and they need an outfielder, whether that's Teoscar Hernandez or maybe Luis Robert, I don't know, but I think they do something. And I just think we're going to get really weird here. And I think even the Braves could do something now, because they don't want to lose to the Astros. They know that they still probably need a pitcher or two as well, especially if you're going to have to see now Verlander in the World Series. So I think things get really weird. It's a seller's market. And I mean, I have no idea what the Mets are doing. Just point and laugh for now. But other than that, I mean, this is about to get really weird over the next couple hours, I think.
And I can tell you that Mets fans kind of apoplectic here in the New York area, not because they're trading Scherzer and Verlander away, season's over for the Mets. Just that, what do you do next year with this rotation? Where it's not just that they're going to be bad the rest of this season, they're going to be bad next season, most likely as well. But that's a story for another time here. This is Lockmas. So Santa, I turn the reins. Reins over to you. What is the first college football bet in Lockmas this season on You Bet or You Bet?
So this is not like, we're not opening with the favorite and then we get less favorite as we go through the days. This is a bet, like the other ones are a bet. So like, just keep that in mind. This isn't, we'll bet all your money on this one because he did this one first. I have bet this. This will be a bet that you will not want to make. And I'm actually going to give you a bunch of reasons, kind of like why that is. And as I go through them, you'll be like, I can't believe we're on the opposite side of this bet. But that's like kind of what this is. So I'll tell you what the bet is first and then kind of go through all the reasons why you won't want to make it, but why it might actually be a pretty good idea. The bet is for the Florida Gators to go over 5.5 wins. Florida's win total is 5.5 this year. It is juiced over. 130, 135 is the consensus price. You don't want 6, you want 5.5, and you want to pay that price for it. So let's just be really clear about that. MGM has the best price on, oh, Alex is so good on Q. MGM has the best price on 5.5, 125 for the over, if that's a bet that you're interested in. You're going to hate this. And the more that you learn about it, you're actually probably going to hate it more, just in terms of like recency and what has happened in the last year or two to Florida and their program. So, or its program, however I'm supposed to pronoun that thing. Florida is possibly at a rock bottom situation currently based on the events of the last few years. So obviously, like, they had Dan Mullen as their coach. The last year of Dan Mullen was pretty topsy-turvy. The defense was atrocious. Dan Mullen ends up not being the coach, and Billy Napier takes over from Louisiana, where he'd had a lot of success at a smaller school, leading them to like a bunch of double-digit win seasons and a good track record. So it's like, all right, maybe that'll kind of turn things around. Except last year was also not very good, even though Anthony Richardson was the starting quarterback, and obviously he was a top 5 pick. The team wasn't very good again. They won 6 regular season games 2 years ago with Dan Mullen, and they won 6 regular season games last year. And for Florida, that's pretty bad. Florida obviously has a long track record of having a lot of success. The defense has been bad for like 3 straight seasons. They gave up 50% third down conversions last year. The defense was really bad. They played in the Las Vegas Bowl in their last game of the season, and they played Oregon State, and they almost got shut out, and they lost 30-3. And then Anthony Richardson went pro, and it's like, well, and then the schedule comes out, and they have the toughest schedule in the country by most accounts this year. And so the win total is 5.5. And so it's like, well, man, those all sound like really bad things. They have like the toughest schedule. The defense stinks. Maybe Napier's bad. Richardson's not there anymore. They actually had like a kind of a really sad thing. One of their offensive linemen, a previously pretty good recruit, is leaving the team because he has a family medical thing. So like, that's not great, obviously, think more about him than the impact on the team. But, you know, there's a lot of things that make you think they're not going to be very good this year. Just the way I like to handicap win totals in general, I've had a lot of success doing this, is 2 philosophies, and they both come into play with Florida. One is to play teams back toward the middle, power conference teams. And what I mean by playing them back toward the middle is power conference teams generally like to cluster around 6 and 7 wins. They play 12 regular season games, all of them, basically by rule, and most of them tend to cluster around 6 or 7 games. So if you play them back to the middle, that means if you have win totals that are less than 6 or 7 for a power conference team, in general, you would want to play those over, obviously with exceptions. And if you have teams with a really high win total, especially not your proven commodities, your Alabamas, Georgias, Ohio States, play them back to the middle down. And usually everyone kind of ends up meeting in the middle more than you would expect, right? So Florida checks this box right away. They're a really, really, really kind of like historically good program. That's a 5.5. We play Florida, even not knowing that about Florida. They're just a power conference team, and they're 5.5. My first inclination, before I know anything else about them, is going to be to play them back to the middle, which is to get to a bowl, right? Over 5.5, 6 wins is obviously, they changed the rules a little bit, but bowl eligibility for 6 wins. That's philosophy number 1. Florida applies. Play teams back toward the middle. Philosophy number 2 is look at how the market historically rates a school in terms of what is not how many games do they actually win. What does the market expect every single year? What is their win total in the market every single year? And is there a very recent run of great or poor play that is causing a dramatic shift in what we expect from that team in a given season? This is the lowest win total in the history of the University of Florida by multiple games. They've never had, in the last 40 years, again, like I don't have their 1980s win totals handy, they've never been expected to be this bad, ever. By more than a game and a half. They've never been expected to be this bad. So on a program baseline level, they're recruiting the same. Their quarterback's not Anthony Richardson, whatever. But like, not enough has changed where this can be the new baseline for Florida, even if you don't like them very much. Previously, last year, their win total was 7. That was on the low end of how they've been rated historically anyway. God, Jim McElwain and the teams were 7.5. So just like, again, program baseline, is there a recent run of form, bad or good, that causes the market to really like expect something dramatically different? That's happening here. Florida's been really bad. They've been way worse than we thought. The defense is atrocious. They have a new defensive coordinator, which we can talk about at some point, who might be good, who knows. And it's causing the market to expect them to be much different than they've always been. And anytime you have that, I always want to play against that, whether that's an over or an under.